Hi, welcome back to another one of my videos. Today we're going to do my July wrap-up. In July I read about 8 books, 2 of which I DNF'd, but we'll go over all of that. So the first book that I read in July was The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. This I received as an e-ARC from NetGalley, technically Orbit Books. It's going to release on August 24th, and basically this book we're following our main character, who was raised as an outlaw. But some shit goes down, and then eventually the whole story becomes kind of a survival story where our main character no longer has his outlaw family and is kind of traveling across this fantasy world where he ends up being a soldier. He also ends up being a scribe, like all this different stuff. And it's really a lot about the interactions that he has with other people and the difficulties that he goes through and kind of the choices he has to make. I will say this book was very heavy with its religion, a fantasy religion, obviously, but a lot of the whole story revolved around that. At times, it felt like it wasn't necessarily slow, but it felt like there was a lot, like really a lot. There were times where I was like, when is this book going to end? Because there could have been multiple endings here. But I did love the way it ended because it's very open-ended, because it is going to be a series. And well, now I'm a little sad because I finished it and it's not even published yet and I want the next book. I gave this book a 4.75 stars. I really did enjoy it very much. The next book that I read was One by One by Ruth Ware. This was my book club's pick for the month. I didn't like this book. It's about a company, a small company, that are going on this company business trip in France in the Alps. They're in this chalet type of thing. And they get stuck in an avalanche, and then I guess people start dying and secrets get unveiled and things like that. And I was like, okay, this might be good. Now, I'm not usually a huge fan of books like this in general, but what really made me not like this book was that the entire, I think I got through at least 30-something% of the audiobook. And by that point, I just didn't care about anything happening. The characters were whiny, or they were just these really rich, snobbish people that I just did not care about. And because I knew they were going to end up in a survival situation, I was like, I don't care about any of these characters. So I just DNF'd it because I was like, I can't. I'm not invested in anything that's happening. I think the rest of my book club did enjoy it though, so good on them. Then the final book that I do not have a physical copy of was The Good Omens, written by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. And I had watched the show on Amazon, I believe, and I loved it. I thought it was so funny. I mean, I love the guys who play the angel and the demon, Crowley and Aziraphale. So when I got the audiobook, I thought that it was going to be, just reading a book, which I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't. It was the show as an audiobook, but it was Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett narrating, as well as other actors. They got voice actors for this shit. It was so good. I loved it. I do feel like I need to read the physical book though, because at first I was like, is this written as a script? Because it was read just things happening and there were sound effects in the background. But when I looked at a preview of it, it's just written as just a novel. And I'm like, okay, well maybe I should read it. So if you don't know, The Good Omens is an angel and a demon who've been best friends since Adam and Eve. And this is later in the future, when essentially Satan's baby is supposed to create the apocalypse. Now, the angel and the demon, they kind of like the world that they live in. They enjoy the fact that one of them has a bookstore and the other one just kind of likes to mess with human beings. He's very good at it, but the demons don't recognize him for it very much. So they essentially want to guide Satan's child into not creating the apocalypse. And the whole way that this all happens, it's absurd, it's ridiculous, and it's hilarious. And I loved the humor. I think that this was a wonderful comedic thing to read, because I don't feel like I read a lot of genuinely funny books. I feel like I should do it more. So yeah, Good Omens got 5 stars. All right, so this month I had a big book. Pariah of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is an epic fantasy. It is multiple points of view. Something that I think is really important in this book is that you're in this fantasy world where there is an east and west, 2 kingdoms, and both kingdoms have religions and politics that are based on an event that happened 1,000 years ago, but they have their own interpretations of it. So they actually hate each other because on one side they're like, well, this guy was the savior. And then on the other side, they're like, fuck no, it wasn't that guy, it was this guy. So they have very opposing views. Basically, this book is religions all revolving around dragons. Some are for, some are not. And all the characters in this book, they're all super different. I loved that there was so much LGBTQ plus representation in here, and their personalities were just so different as well, and their involvement in the story was important in their own way. I will say that there was one character I was just like, I don't think you're that vital to any of this. But yeah, overall, this book was a heck of a ride. There were a lot of emotions in here. So I really like this book. I did give it 4.75 stars because the ending, I was like, meh. I'm picky about my endings. I don't know why. Next was Romeo and or Juliet by Ryan North. This is a choosable path adventure book. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. It is a Romeo and Juliet book, but it is interactive. It's like a video game in a book. I love the concept of this. I think that it was really original and really cool. But I hated the execution, I guess. What I really didn't like about this book was the humor was kind of stupid for me. Then the other thing is that the endings came way too quick. So what I ended up doing, the reason that I consider that I finished this book, is that I literally just looked at all the endings. Because everything that happened in the middle never really seemed to matter. And they were just such slight changes that I was just like, I really don't want to bother having to go back every time and do the different paths and have this stupid humor. So I read a bunch of different endings. I did not read them all because there are a lot. And I think that that was my main issue, is that there's so many endings and the path to get there is super, super short. So yeah, this book ended up being just like a 1.5 for me because ultimately I got bored of it very quickly, very uninterested in like continuing to look at the other endings because I mean, you might as well make up your own at a certain point. So yeah, I think the concept was cool, but I didn't love it. Then I read Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Basically, you are following Miriam, who is the daughter of a moneylender, and she is better at the job than her dad. And she boasts about it and says how good she is at it, and she attracts the attention of a Fae king, which just brings her a lot of trouble. And then there are also 2 other points of view, 2 other girls who are in very different standings. All 3 of them are like, they all have very different backgrounds, but they're all very strong and very like stubborn about what they think is right, and they make good choices. I liked what they did. The problem is that I felt like this book is more of a scenery, I guess. Like you're looking at a place and you're seeing things kind of happen, but it doesn't feel like there's a heavy story until you get to almost the end of the book. And when things did happen, I was a little confused. There were times when I was a little confused. So I think that might be because of my very like minimal knowledge on Slavic lore, because this book is it's based on Slavic lore, and I did enjoy that. I enjoyed that very much because I don't think there are enough books that are like this. But overall, the characters are really good. The writing was beautiful. It was just the plot felt a little slow, or even like sometimes non-existent. Like I wasn't entirely sure what I was supposed to be reading. So yeah, but it was still good. I still enjoyed it. A 3.5. All right, I'm going to talk about my second DNF before I get into the last book. Technically, Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian is the last book that I read in the month of July. I squeezed it in at the end. I was really intent on finishing it. I was like, I can do this. I can finish it. I got to like page 250, which is more than halfway. But I was forcing myself to read this book, like genuinely sitting there trying so hard to focus on it, but constantly like being like, oh, I could do this, or I should do this. You know how sometimes you're reading a page and you're just like, oh shit, I need to read it again because I wasn't paying attention? That was this book for me almost the whole time. So this is an Arthurian retelling. I love Arthurian tales. So basically in this book, you're following, you're following an oracle, Elaine, and she, right off the bat, tells you she knows what's going to happen, or she's seen multiple possibilities for the future, and they all basically end the same. So right off the bat, I was like, oh, okay, so I already know the ending, which I don't really like that. But I figured, I was like, you know, if you're telling me the ending, that might not be the ending. So I was like, I'll just see what happens. But as I continued to go, it's just drama. A lot of this was drama, and it was just going back and forth between like interactions that Elaine had with like Morgana and Arthur and Lancelot, but like tiny things that I was like, why does this matter? Because this book is supposed to be about Arthur trying to essentially gain back his crown, or whatever. Someone else is trying to take his position and he has to earn it back. But there's no politics. There, like, at some point I was like, oh, this is gonna talk like more into political stuff. But no, it was like little snarky comments and, oh, she glared at me awkward, or things like that. And I was just like, I really, like, what? So I just couldn't. And there was so much of like this relationship drama where it's like, well, I know what he's gonna do to me in the future, and yet why are you still pining for him then? Like, if you are so dead set on not liking this man, on not loving this man, and you're so focused on helping Arthur get onto the throne, why the hell are you still pining for him? I don't know. I had a lot of issues. I couldn't keep reading this. It was pissing me off. I know that Laura Sebastian is mostly known for her YA books, and this one was supposed to be like her first adult book. My personal opinion, it was a miss. It's not an adult book. It is definitely a YA book. And it was depressing the whole time. I think that was the part that maybe like was supposed to be adult, is that it's sad. And that's not what makes an adult book. An adult book is adult themes, not sadness and depression. Like, that's actually a lot of teenage stuff. So yeah, this for me was a miss. I mean, if you've read it, let me know what you thought, but for me, it just felt like a lot of drama, and I couldn't. Okay, last book. This one was amazing. I'm so happy that I read it this month. It was The Lost War by Justin Lee Anderson. This is the first book in the Aiden series. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or not. I don't know. This is just the first book. I love this. I love this so much. So this book is basically, you have a mage who is the like envoy of the king, like his closest advisor. He's sent out on a mission to go retrieve a queen with the two other king's advisors. And well, their adventure kind of goes awry. And let me tell you, this book has like things that I didn't even know that I wanted in a fantasy book. First of all, it has mages. Awesome. Then it has demons. Then it has like zombie plague type of thing going on, and then it has like weird demon alien cocoon things. Like, I was just like, this is so cool, this is so awesome. Then there were the characters. The characters were so diverse, so amazingly like put together with their interactions. And then the magic system was awesome. At first I didn't think at first I was just like, wait, I don't really get this. Like, he's an earth mage, but he makes fire. But then it all made sense as you continue. I think that it's important for me to not talk too much about the actual plot, because this book is kind of a mystery. So a big part of enjoying this book is not really knowing what's happening, because the ending will kind of explain everything. Though I will say, I expected the ending, but not really. I don't know if that makes any sense. I expected the bad thing, but not in the extent of what it ended up being. I think that's better. Yes. So yes, I very much enjoyed this book. I cannot wait for the next one. I'm just so excited for this to continue because the writing was amazing. Also, the philosophical arguments in this book were beautiful. Like, there were criticisms on the society in this fantasy world that would transfer over beautifully to criticisms on our reality, which just was amazing. Also, the representation of sexuality and the LGBTQ and all that, like, this book was great. I loved it. I think it was amazing. Maybe I'm saying that I loved it too much, but for me, this book was awesome. I gave it 5 stars. If I could give it more, I would. Okay, that's it for my July wrap up. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't read more, but at the same time, I had the Pariah of the Orange Tree, which is really big. So I think I did pretty good for the month. So yeah, if you like this video, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share this with other people. Let me know if there were any of these books that you have read, if you like them, if you didn't like them, or if there are any books that like I talked about and that now you're interested in reading. I highly recommend The Lost War. Yeah, if you're still here, go ahead and drop in the comments what your favorite dog breed is. This doesn't have to be a dog that you own or because it is your dog. It can just be a dog breed that you think looks cute or is funny. So yeah. That's it for me. I will see you guys next time. Bye!